Good evening, everyone. I'm Jennifer Bhatia, and I have the pleasure of being your host this evening. I'll start by introducing Dr. Huzaifa Khorakiwala, campaigning peace, healthcare, and humanitarian values. Dr. Huzaifa Khorakiwala is the prominent global humanitarian and peace advocate. He is the founder of the impactful I Am Peacekeeper Movement, which unites over 1.8 million peacekeepers worldwide around seven core human values of gratitude, forgiveness, love, humility, giving, patience, and truth. He serves as the executive director of Wockhardt Limited, a global pharmaceutical and biotechnology company which interests in healthcare delivery. He's also the CEO of Wockhardt Foundation, a leading nonprofit organization. Under his leadership, Foundation's flagship initiative, Mobile 1000, has delivered free primary healthcare to over 40 million underprivileged people in rural India over the last 12 years. Dr. Khorakiwala also chairs the Global Justice, Love and Peace Summit, which recently hosted 12 Nobel Peace Laureates in Dubai, April 2025, and unveiled a peace charter, a symbolic love letter of humanity. He further leads Billionaires for Nobel Peace, an initiative promoting Nobel inspired peace efforts globally. A Yale MBA graduate, the eldest son of Indian billionaire Dr. Habil Khorakiwala, he has dedicated his life in uplifting the poor and advancing world peace. In recognition of his work, he has received 110 prestigious awards, including a knighthood, 13 honorary doctorates, 2 D.Litt. Degrees. He was also named Man of the Year 2025 by Prince Mario Max Schaumburg. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer, for this very high introduction. First, I will talk for few minutes, a couple of minutes, and then I will introduce our esteemed guest, Professor Mohan Munasinghe. Uh, Basically, we have launched the I Am Peacekeeper Movement, and this is a movement which is a non-political and non-religious movement, and it is based on the foundation of seven human values of gratitude, forgiveness, love, humility, giving, patience, and truth. And in this movement, we are trying to further the cause of justice, love, and peace in the world. And there are 12 key programs in this movement. One is Peace School and Peace Campus. Second is the Peace Organization. The third is the Peace Corporate. The fourth is Peace Events. The fifth is I Am Peacekeeper Movement Coin. Then there is a Peace Book, which is like a Facebook where the I Am Peacekeeper will come and they will have a networking between themselves. Then there are Peace Gifts. Then there is I Am Peacekeeper publication and the Inner Peace course. Then there is Peace Influencer. And then there is the I Am Peacekeeper movement registration, Peace Cafe, and lastly, there are Peace Cast, which is like a podcast of video, songs, sayings, emojis, and blogs. So these are the various multi-pronged activities that we are doing. And before we start any group thing, we take a pledge. So I request you to put your hand to your heart and take a pledge after me. I am Peacekeeper.
I am Peacekeeper.
I commit myself
Commit myself
to global justice, love, and peace,
global justice, love, and peace,
and will spread it.
and will spread
Peace.
peace.
So, this is the short pledge of I Am Peacekeeper. Our peacekeepers are called I Am Peacekeeper, not Peacekeeper. That is a slight difference. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our honorable chief guest for our Zoom call today. It is my profound honor and privilege to welcome to you all at the Peacekeepers Dawn, a significant gathering dedicated to nurturing global harmony and unity through justice, love, and peace. We are particularly delighted and honored today to welcome our distinguished guest, Nobel Peace Laureate, Professor Mohan Munasinghe. He is a visionary global leader. Professor Munasinghe was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2007 for his exceptional contributions to climate change and sustainable development. He is the esteemed founder of the Munasinghe Institute for Development, and the innovator behind Sustainomics, a groundbreaking framework that elegantly unites environmental sustainability, economic prosperity, and social justice. Today, Professor Munasinghe will enlighten us with his profound insights on how these vital elements interconnect to pave the pathway toward ensuring global peace. Please, please join me in warmly welcoming Nobel Peace Laureate, Professor Mohan Munasinghe. Welcome, Honorable Sir, to this the Peacekeepers Dawn Zoom call.
Thank you very much. It is my great honor. Let me share my screen with you so that I can show my slides right away, and I hope you are able to see the screen. I just, let me, okay, just. So thank you for inviting me, especially to you, Dr. Huzaifa, who is our inspiration. We are all interlinked on one planet. We must unite to save the earth and ourselves. Let's act now for peace together. Sustainability and peace in a multipolar world, Sustainomics and balanced, inclusive green growth. That's what we're going to talk about today. Start with sustainability and peace, the linkage. We can see how resource limits and unequal access harm the poor. There is a concept called the ecological footprint of humanity, which is the sum total of resources that we need to support 8 billion people on this planet. In 2012, we needed the equivalent of 1.5 planets to support us sustainably. And by 2030, we will need 2 planets. We clearly don't have that. So it's an unsustainable path. Who is doing all this consumption? The champagne glass tells you that it's highly unequal. 20% of the world's richest consume 85% of the resources, more than 60 times the poorest 20%. And meanwhile, almost 1 billion people are hungry. 1% of the richest own more wealth than the remaining 99% of us. And the global military spending is over 2 trillion in 2024, while aid for the poor was less than 1/10 that amount. Now, if you look at those 2 facts at the top, you will see what the result you get at the bottom, that the rich already use more than 1 planet, so there are not enough resources to raise the poor out of poverty, and we have 75 years of unmet goals and broken promises. In 1947, you had the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which all countries signed. By 2015, we have 17 Sustainable Development Goals. But basically, every one of the 17 SDG were in that original 1947 document. So we haven't progressed very far. And I must add parenthetically that the Khorakiwala family is an exception to the rule in the sense that they are rich who are helping the poor, and not only the poor, but to find world peace. Thank you again to you, sir. Now, what are the key concepts to move forward? We can address problems of sustainable development with the Sustainomics framework and something called balanced, inclusive green growth, which I presented at the 1992 Earth Summit in Rio more than 30 years ago, and it has been applied quite widely since then. So Sustainomics and BIGG will promote peace and sustainability by implementing the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. What is the first core concept of Sustainomics and how does this relate to peace? There are 3 elements which Dr. Huzaifa mentioned. There's economic growth, which is needed to raise the poor out of poverty. We need environmental protection to save the planet. And we need social progress for empowerment and inclusion so that everybody shares the benefits. And we come to the 4 Ps. So an economic growth gives us prosperity. Social progress is for people, environmental protection for the planet, and those are essential prerequisites for peace. These are the 4 Ps. If you unpack the triangle, you get the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are shown here. And I can tell you very clearly that in my mind, I Am Peacekeeper Movement can help us achieve this global vision. It is really a last chance for humanity in the sense that we have missed the bus so many times, and we have to implement these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which are universal, complete, integrated, leaves no one behind. And I will also show you later that BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and the global majority of countries will lead the way towards this vision of people, planet, prosperity, and peace. The second core concept is also linked to peace. It's called climbing the mountain, because you see, sustainable development is like a mountain peak. It is covered with clouds, and we can't see. But still, if we walk one step at a time up the mountain, we will reach the peak at some time, because many unsustainable activities are obvious. When we leave this room, we switch off the light. We can turn off a tap. We can plant a tree. And we can do this not only at the individual level, but also at the level of companies, cities, and eventually the global level. And this is why our Peacekeeper Movement empowers us to act now for peace. The third core concept is basically in our own minds. We have to transcend certain bad patterns that we have. The most relevant one is values. We have very many unsustainable, unethical values, including violence, greed, corruption, and so on. Again, IAPM can help to replace these unethical social values driving unsustainable development. The fourth core concept is very important as well. It's just implement, because there are very many good plans, but most of them are on the shelf. I have done my share of implementation. There are many case studies available. If you want to contact me after this meeting, please do, and I will elaborate. Now, there are also the stakeholder boundaries, and this is called sustainable implementation triangle, because governments alone cannot solve the increasingly complex problems of sustainability. So we need civil society and business to actually assist government and even sometimes push government to do the right thing. And this is what I Am Peacekeeper Movement is doing. It can strengthen leadership and good governance to protect sustainability and peace. Then I have worked with many CEOs and boards of major multinationals. I've listed many of them there. I won't go through them, but they go with chemicals, supermarkets, oil and gas, plantations, biotech, mining, you name it. 3 key points have come out. Business need not be the problem if they become part of the solution. So sustainability and triple bottom line is the wave of the future. Resource use efficiency is a win-win starting point. It's called green growth because when you reduce resource use like energy, you not only increase your profits, but you also benefit the environment. And finally, ethical values are the key to long-term sustainability. A brief word about climate change. I've worked for the IPCC for 30 years, and I can't resist saying something. Global warming is indeed proven. It is human emissions that have caused irreversible changes in warming. Continued climate change will affect the poor, who will suffer the most. This is a grave climate injustice. And finally, the ray of hope. Sustainable development is the best way forward because sustainable development and peace will allow us not only to tackle problems like poverty, hunger, and illness, but also tackle climate change on the way together. This is the picture of climate injustice because the burden of greenhouse gases is unfairly allocated. In 1992, I helped to frame the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, which had a critical phase, which we argued on for many times. Common but differentiated responsibilities. Common means all 8 billion people on the planet have the duty to work together. Differentiated means different folks have different ways to deal with it. The main task of the rich is to reduce the high per capita emissions and mitigate. For the poor, adaptation is the main priority because protecting the poor and the most vulnerable from the impacts of climate change must come first. And in the last 3 years, we have finally made progress after 30 years with the Loss and Damage Fund, which was established under the UN. It is based on the polluter pays principle. Rich countries are not obliged, but can voluntarily contribute to this fund. And the poor countries who are affected by climate change, like sea level rise and so on, can go to the fund to get compensation. The second example of climate injustice is a calculation I have done. If we assume that every one of us has an equal right to emit carbon dioxide as we do when we breathe, right? If you look since 1850, per capita emissions from the Western countries have greatly exceeded the emissions from the global South. 900 trillion gigatons. So if you look, 900 gigatons. If you look at the value of these excess emissions, it's around 45 trillion, not billion dollars, right? Now, if you look at the financial debt that is owed by the poor countries to the north, to banks especially, it's only 11 trillion. So if they pay us our climate debt, we will have more than enough to pay them back the financial debt. And this is a very important aspect of climate injustice. Now, let me end by showing you why I feel Asia and the BRICS will lead the way to sustainability. On the right-hand side, you see the geostrategic shifts of something called the global economic center of gravity. In 0 AD, it was in Asia because China and India were among the richest countries in the world. By 1950, it had moved to the middle of the Atlantic because Europe and North America were rich, partly due to pillage from colonialization and so on. But look, by 2025, it has moved right back into Asia with the growth of the Asian economy. So we can lead the way now. And this is the closing argument. We are moving from something which is unsustainable, a unipolar world in which the US and Europe have been leading. They are less than 15% of the global population. BRICS and the global South are more than 85% of the global population. The leaders of the West have made statements which are quite frankly alarming. Obama, for example, said US is exceptional, which means we can do what we want. Joseph Borrell, who was a former EU chief diplomat, said Europe is a garden, the rest of the world is a jungle. Boris Johnson said, for example, the West must preserve its hegemony. All that is changing. There's a transition taking place. In the world GDP in purchasing power parity terms, BRICS is 36%. The G7, which is the West, is only 28%. Many countries are joining from the global South, the BRICS. So it is time for this transition to take place, to take us to what I call the new emerging multipolar world. And in this I have drawn BRICS and the Global South on the left, which are going forward on the P4 platform: peace, prosperity, people, and planet. There is still the group of the West, USA and Europe and NATO and so on, but we need to build a peace bridge. This is where I Am Peacekeeper movement is going to be pivotal, to keep the trade flows, to avoid violence, and to have peaceful economic partnerships for mutual benefit. Presidents of the BRICS countries have said they are working for a multilateral system to achieve common security. Now, let me end by saying we need to watch out for potential surprises. There's always climate change. There will be environmental crises, even pandemics like the COVID, social unrest and conflicts, economic crises, and technical disruption from AI, robotics, biotech, so many things. I have campaigned for peace and nuclear disarmament for over 6 decades. More than ever before, I appeal to the I Am Peacekeeper movement. We must avoid conflict, especially nuclear World War III, which is a human extinction event. I think IAPM can lead the way. And let me end with a personal bit of advice. Be at peace within yourself before pursuing peace on earth. My ancient Pali blessing from Sri Lanka for sustainability and peace. It says, may the rains come in time, the environment, may the harvest be bountiful, which is the economy. May the people be happy and contented, may the king be righteous, which is society. So centuries ago, my ancestors knew about sustainability. I am trying in my own way to rediscover these old truths. At MIND, this is the Munasinghe Institute for Development, where I belong. We are doing a lot of research on sustainability. Please contact me, as I said, if you want to know more. Stuti, Dhanyavad, thank you very much indeed.
Okay, Dhanyavad. And, thank you, Professor. It was a really wonderful presentation that you gave. And your concept of Sustainomics is a very important model, considering that there are so many inequalities in the world. And the top 1% of the world is consuming even more resources than 99% of the world. So my first question to you is that, considering your Sustainomics model, how can corporates effectively integrate economic, environmental, and social aspects to drive the global peace?
I can only very humbly give you a little bit from my experience, Dr. Huzaifa. I showed you the list of multinationals I've worked with at the highest level. The key point is this. I mean, apart from the greenwash where everybody says we are sustainable, but they are not, the point where they start is called green growth. That is, if there are many methods and new technologies which will allow us to do more with less resource use. So we can cut back on energy use, for example. Sorry, can you hear?
Yes, you're audible. You're audible.
Yeah, sorry. So we can cut back on energy use, but that will make us more profitable. But at the same time, we are saving the environment. And so it's a win-win proposition. And then if we are mindful of our employees and our customers and deal with them fairly, then there's the social side. So already we are building on the triangle, and many companies realize this because they know they are in for the long haul, not necessarily for short-term profit. Let us work with those businesses who are responsive and build on them. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, sir. We would like to throw open to the audience and any questions they would like to ask. Jennifer, can you facilitate this?
So I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said if anybody in the audience would like to ask any question, they are
I'll,
more than welcome to ask.
yes.
They can either write it in the chat box or something.
Yeah. Everyone, y'all have a question here. There's a Q&A box segment. Y'all can put up your questions and I can probably read it out and have it answered.
Also, Professor, one other question is now we are going very high into the digital economy and the digital part of the world, and especially artificial intelligence is coming and all this. So, like the social media platforms, can they play a role in Sustainomics, for example?
They can, and I have launched actually a very important movement called Smart, Sustainable, Clean Cities Movement. And there are a number of cities that have joined this. Now, why cities? Let me explain. Countries are large and unwieldy. Leaders make promises, but they're mainly for photo ops. Cities are more compact. The mayors of cities and community leaders are more in touch with their people, and also CEOs of companies. When they make a pledge, they can deliver. And the smart part is very important because it's a digital technology that will allow us to bring in smart infrastructure, for example, applied to energy systems, applied to water systems, waste disposal, and all of those. So smart, sustainable cities can also be clean, with green areas which are more livable, and we can start. Once all the cities get going, then it's easy to spread throughout the country. So it is absolutely a must to use digital technology wisely.
Okay. Professor, if you can send us the link of this so that we can popularize this concept on our social media channels and other publications.
I will certainly do that. In fact, let me tell you, next week, I mentioned I'm going to Portugal.
Right.
To celebrate something called the European Green Capital Award. This was a city called Guimarães in Portugal, which I have guided for 10 years, for the past 10 years to win this award. So it is a reality, and I will plug you in. It's not just a pipe dream. There are cities following this path.
Okay, okay.
So we have 4 questions. Can I ask them?
Actually, we have a 30-minute. So we will pick up only one question due to the shortage of time.
Okay.
And let me just see.
Yes, sir.
Professor, if you were to select only one policy development, one policy decision or policy change, so that there is sustainable development, only one, is there something like you can identify that one thing?
Well, yes. It has less to do with sustainability, more to do with peace. I think the world is becoming very much more dangerous because global leaders are not talking to each other in a diplomatic way. They are threatening each other. And this is a dangerous trend. As citizens, we should feel empowered to tell our leaders, please avoid war, start talking in the proper language, peaceably, and then the other benefits will flow. So our Peacekeeper movement is right on the ball on that. Thank you very much indeed again for your effort.
Thank you, Professor. We will just finish with a 1-minute vote of thanks. So as a thank you, we will say a small poetry about the lovely time that we had with you over the last 30 minutes. And the poetry is like this. Thank you for your kindness, for every thoughtful deed, for lifting the hearts and the spirits and planting the hope's seed. Thank you for your patience, for every gentle word, for listening and caring and making voices heard. And thank you for your presence, for simply being there, for showing us the compassion and always choosing care. So we thank Honorable Professor Mohan Munasinghe, and we pray that may God give you a long life, may God give you good health, and may God give you the strength so that you can carry on the work that you are doing
It's
of
20 hours.
so that you carry on the work of spreading Sustainomics right throughout the world. And this work that you are doing, it leads to the global peace. And thank you once again and wish you all the best. And I thank all the audience for participating in this. And thank you to Jennifer also.
Thank you very much
Thank
indeed.
you.
And I pray to God also to find companions and fellow travelers like yourself, sir,
Okay.
to walk this path. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.